The American dream, a potent promise woven into the fabric of a nation. In the decades following World War II, it felt attainable for many. The average American family could afford a home, a car, and a comfortable life. Today, that image feels increasingly distant. The American dream, once a beacon of hope, now feels like a fading promise for many. The costs of housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed, while wages have stagnated. This stark contrast raises a critical question: what happened to the American dream? The seeds of change were sown in the decades following World War II, a period often romanticized as a golden age for the American middle class. The United States, emerging from the war as a global superpower, experienced an economic boom fueled by industrial growth and consumer spending. Labor unions, empowered by collective bargaining, secured good wages and benefits for workers. Manufacturing jobs provided a pathway to the middle class for millions of Americans.
However, the economic landscape began to shift in the 1970s. Globalization led to increased competition from overseas, putting pressure on American manufacturing. The decline of labor unions weakened workers' bargaining power. Meanwhile, financial deregulation paved the way for riskier lending practices and a growing emphasis on short-term profits over long-term investment in workers and communities.
These trends, often subtle at first, gradually eroded the foundations of middle-class security. The social contract that had once promised a good life to those who worked hard began to fray. The gap between the rich and everyone else started to widen, setting the stage for the economic challenges that would come to define the 21st century. The early 21st century brought a cascade of economic shocks that further exacerbated the struggles of the American middle class. The dot-com bubble burst in the early 2000s, followed by the devastating 2008 financial crisis, which resulted in widespread job losses and foreclosures. The rise of the gig economy, while offering flexibility for some, often came with lower wages, precarious employment, and a lack of benefits.
Meanwhile, the costs of essential goods and services continued to soar. Housing prices in many urban areas became unattainable for average earners. Healthcare costs spiraled out of control, leaving millions uninsured or underinsured. Student loan debt reached crisis levels, burdening a generation with crippling debt and delaying major life milestones.
The American dream, once a symbol of upward mobility and opportunity, began to feel like an impossible aspiration for many. The middle class found themselves trapped in a labyrinth of economic challenges, struggling to make ends meet and facing a future defined by uncertainty and insecurity.
Despite the daunting challenges, the American spirit of resilience and innovation offers hope for a more equitable future. Policy solutions like affordable housing, expanded healthcare, and tuition-free college can provide relief. Investing in infrastructure, clean energy, and education creates jobs and strengthens the middle class.
Community-based initiatives and worker-owned cooperatives offer alternative models for economic empowerment. By fostering entrepreneurship and supporting small businesses, communities can create sustainable economic ecosystems.
The future of the American dream depends on our collective willingness to challenge the status quo and demand change. Everyday heroes work tirelessly to reclaim the promise of the American dream. Their efforts remind us that the human spirit of determination remains undimmed.